We don't think any of those questions are puerile. We think those questions are relevant. And to call questions puerile is a way to avoid a debate, isn't it? Sanjay Jha, Subramanian Swamy. Two men who have long debated each other on the Newshour. In fact, I think the first time they encountered each other was also on the Newshour. Professor Vaidyanathan, he leans towards the BJP. He's from IIM Bangalore. And Prasenjit Bose leans towards the left. And he's in Kolkata. Thank you very much. Let's begin. You know, you call the questions puerile. I don't think that's the right thing to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some of those questions up in the course of the debate. And my first question goes to Subramanian Swamy. Subramanian Swamy, let's take a few of those questions, okay? Yashwant Sinha says, is it a fact that as a result of the slowdown of the economy, there has been a massive decline in employment opportunities? Chidambaram says, number of jobs created under the NDA tenure were higher than the UPA tenure, but, and he's right, the unemployment rate dropped during the UPA tenure. Now, the unemployment rate is more important, isn't it, Dr. Swamy?
No, the question is, if the number of jobs created in the NDA period was much larger than the UPA period, how can the unemployment rate drop in the UPA period? I mean, this is, it shows either Mr. Chidambaram has forgotten to count or he's forgotten arithmetic.
Yeah, actually, what was going on there, Sanjay Jha? How can the Congress justify the failure to create jobs by highlighting the rate of unemployment? Mr. Jha?
Can I answer your question?
Yeah, please.
Number one, I'm answering your question. Let me tell you the fact as it is. The key distinction is that the casual workers went down. The number of the self-employed during our time went up. And don't forget the fact that during the NDA time, the majority of the so-called participation that they're talking about of 60 million, that's the number I keep hearing, has been actually contested subsequently, that the NSSO data was perhaps not making the adequate, fair comparison of looking at the worker participation rate. And most of them were in agriculture. During the UPA time, entrepreneurship, self-employment, casual workers have come down, and I think to that extent, it has actually been a positive development, although we are not going to deny the fact that employment creating opportunities need to be enhanced.
You failed to create jobs, simple.
Manifesto talks about
why complicate it?
I'll also want to mention one factor.
Professor Vaidyanathan,
I'll make one simple point.
No, you failed to create jobs.
I'll make one simple point that India as an economy needs to, manufacturing companies in India have become more capital intensive, and that does impact.
Come on, don't give me that garble, please.
And going forward,
please don't give me that garble. Manufacturing is capital intensive. We need to create capital and hence
small industries.
No, that's all.
Is important.
Yeah, this is like this. Manufacturing is capital intensive. We need to create capital. When there will be capital, then there will be manufacturing. Then there will be jobs. In the meantime, we grew in agriculture, of which we cannot give you an accurate.
That is a transition.
Come on.
Feature of any emerging market.
No, so you admit the first question of Yashwant Sinha. Sanjay Jha admits, Professor Vaidyanathan, that the question Chidambaram described as puerile was in fact inappropriate.
I don't. I qualified my statement.
You can qualify it as much as you want.
I qualified my statement.
No, and
I'll tell you what, Mr. Yashwant Sinha's statement is not an attempt to bring economics back on the agenda for the BJP. It's a highly personalized statement on Mr. Chidambaram.
What is personal?
You can make out by the tone and tenor.
What is
and
personal?
For a gentleman who was an unmitigated disaster as a finance minister, who presided over the UTI scam, who presided over the 2G scam that started in the time actually of the NDA when they moved from the license to the revenue share model. The world knows that. Why don't you ask Mr. Sinha why was he moved away from the finance ministry? He was an unmitigated
The second question. No, I will stay with
India's finance minister. I can repeat that 10 times if you ask me.
The one. Please, let's be focused. So, Professor Vaidyanathan, I just want your take and Prasenjit's take on the first question which is raised out there about the fact that the UPA government failed to create jobs. Is that a settled issue in your view, Professor Vaidyanathan? Is it a settled issue? UPA failed to create jobs.
Arnab, just this month I published a book called India Unink. In a lighter vein, you should buy the copies and give it to all the panelists. Now, in India, the small businesses, partnership, proprietorship firms, household enterprise, They constitute nearly 45 to 50% of our national income. And they are the engines of our growth. In many sectors, they have been growing at 8.5%, 9%, actually in the last decade or more than that. Sectors like construction, sectors like transport, sectors like trade. But if you look at the bank financing to them, it has declined from somewhere 45 to 50% to 30%. What has happened actually is this UPA government and the finance ministry has comprehensively destroyed entrepreneurship in this country. The thriving entrepreneurship class, including the self-employed, have been fully destroyed. And who have to rely on these Saharas and these type of Sharda type of firms for their funding at 2 to 3% per month.
It's the other way around.
And this is no joke. And the second is, what has happened is, huge amount of employment has got shifted through outsourcing centers, which mean that, employment might be there, but it could be at 1/4 or 1/3 of the rate what could be offered. So this is not something which is, acceptable at all.
Arnab,
and I think the government's achievement is removing the entrepreneurship. Second is, I am puzzled that no newspaper reporter or this TV journalist today asked, under this finance minister, we had MCX, NCDEX scam and National Spot Exchange, and we had the scam of Sahara, we had the huge scam of United Bank of India collapsing, and the State Bank of India is in deep trouble.
Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad
and
of the BJP is the lawyer for Sahara.
Minister is squarely responsible for all this.
It right. Ravi Shankar Prasad
and just like that, talking about the growth rate alone is not adequate.
You know which political parties.
All these things have taken place under his.
Should I give the list of the? Should I give? There are enough people from the Congress also.
He should be asked to respond to this.
No, don't get personal, Sanjay Jha. Don't get. I am not asking you who defend. I am not asking you whether a Congress leader was defending anybody in the Italian Marines case. Am I talking about that? No. Am I talking about which individual brief, which individual Congress leader has taken?
Let me tell you.
Did any Congress leader take a brief in the Italian Marines case?
Let me tell you, Mr. Vaidyanathan.
Did any Congress leader take a brief in the Veerbhadra Singh case?
There are 60,000 micro,
what about 2G also?
Medium enterprises have closed in Gujarat. I was talking about Gujarat. Yes, there has been a destruction of self-employed in Gujarat. I agree with him. But across India, if you look at the statistics, in fact, entrepreneurship has been the biggest story for India. Employment, by the way, happens more in MSME sector than it happens in large-scale corporations who are actually trying to become more capital-intensive and more frugal on their labor expenditure. Therefore, labor reforms is the key issue for India, where our manifesto says we will look into it. About the BJP manifesto, I think it will come in June 25th or 26th. I don't know what to comment on that.
Now, anyway, I'm glad that we are at least debating these issues which Mr. Chidambaram had described as puerile. Prasenjit wants to come in. Yes, Prasenjit, which point do you want to come in on?
Yeah, I mean, I am actually frankly very amused to see that the Congress and the BJP are debating the economy, whereas the fact is that they differ so little on economic issues, on economic policies. But what has been the great difference between the economic policies that the BJP pursued between 98 and 2004 and what the UPA pursued, especially the UPA 2, when there was no left? And if employment generation is the question, I would say both the BJP government and the UPA government has the same record of jobless growth. And employment generation in the second tenure of the UPA government has been, at a very slow pace. But the same statistics, NSS statistics will show you that even in a state like Gujarat, despite all these, hype over the high growth rate of Gujarat, employment growth has been zero.
We're not discussing
that
Gujarat
is the biggest
now,
problem with overall economy.
Prasenjit, we are discussing. I know.
No, but Gujarat is also a part of India.
Yes, it is. But what am I discussing here now? You want me to discuss West Bengal? Should we discuss Sikkim next?
No, what you are discussing.
You want to discuss what you want to discuss, or you want to discuss what we want to discuss?
You see where I am coming from.
No, you see the point is, Prasenjit.
See what I don't. What I am saying is,
Prasenjit, we are not discussing a state now.
What is the big difference?
We are not discussing a state.
Maharashtra and Gujarat.
Prasenjit, we are discussing Yashwant Sinha's questions.
What is the big difference? They are all the same.
Prasenjit, I understand your
growth everywhere in India is jobless.
Prasenjit, when I have a debate on Gujarat, we'll discuss Gujarat. Now, my question is, we are discussing Yashwant Sinha's questions. Let's come to the next question. The next question is the question of inflation. Right?
Yeah, I am to saying it is...
Yashwant Sinha asks a question on inflation and he asks, is it a fact that consumer price inflation has averaged around 10% per annum between 2008 and 2013? And this is the highest inflation rate in any major economy in the world and has persisted despite slowing growth? That the high inflation has pushed millions of Indians below the poverty line? What's puerile about this question? What's puerile about it? Maybe it doesn't matter to you, Sanjay.
Puerile. It's
Let me answer that.
Fact.
It's an absolute fact. To describe it as puerile is a way of running away from it.
Give me a minute.
Yes.
No, what's puerile about this question? You're insulting the people of this country by calling it puerile.
Discussing Mr. Yashwant Sinha's instead of discussing Mr. Yashwant Sinha's highly selected questions, Arnab, if you really want to be dispassionate and neutral, please also discuss Mr. Chidambaram's statement, which put a lot of other factors into perspective. Why are we narrowing it to a very parochial
I'm sorry, because you are not answering the questions. You are calling the questions puerile. I am, because I'll tell you, let's discuss fact to fact.
Yes, we agree. Yes,
you agree. Fine.
Yes, we agree that we provided for a fiscal stimulus into 1 minute. Can I finish? We provided for a fiscal stimulus in our government in 2007-8. Mr. Chidambaram was at pains to say. And look at the glaring omission by the former finance minister. He ignores, in none of the questions does he acknowledge that the world went into a serious international financial turmoil, which was branded by the world as the Great Recession, the worst since 1931. And since you and I both have studied history, Arnab, you know what 1931 did to the entire universe.
Then why please don't tell me, why did the
distorting the whole dialogue, misleading the people of India.
What has that got to do with inflation?
1 minute.
What has it got to do with inflation? I am asking you about inflation.
The monetary policy
I am asking you about inflation between September 2013 and March 2014.
Arnab, it is linked to that.
Oh, please. That way everything is linked to everything. Please understand this, Sanjay. Inflation. Your Prime Minister...
Arnab, both retail and wholesale inflation are currently falling.
Your Prime Minister, Sanjay, listen, who are you? What are you saying?
No, so that is not the point.
Sanjay, your Prime Minister has admitted his failure.
I'm making a point that
you're outgoing.
Because we wanted to push up aggregate demand.
You're completely failed to check inflation.
No, I don't know why you call a question on inflation puerile. Subramanian Swamy, I want you to respond to either of the points that have been made there and the fact that Chidambaram is reluctant to get into a debate on these subjects.
He said the general questions from Mr. Sinha were puerile and personalized.
I don't know what is puerile about it. When you're talking about inflation affects all the, a billion Indians, maybe it doesn't affect you. Yes, Subramanian Swamy.
I would like to know.
Can I tell you something? No, I don't think inflation affects you, but I can tell you this, Arnab. Arnab, for 10 years, an economy of India, which grew at over 7.5% GDP, which is accepted worldwide as a single barometer of the health of an economy, along with 140 million people.
If that is your argument,
with a booming,
if that is your argument, if that is your argument, here's my counter to you. Here, listen to the counter.
Letting me finish.
Listen to the counter. Listen to the counter.
We agree that there was a supply bottleneck that aggravated inflation. We agree with that. Supply bottlenecks aggravated inflation. We agree with it.
What supply bottleneck?
What supply bottlenecks?
Interest rates so many times. You choked off demand.
I just have a simple counter to Sanjay. He will understand. Have the patience to listen. I'm not making a puerile point. Puerile is the Congress party's word today. Any questions you ask them are puerile if they put you on the defensive. I mean, this kind of superciliousness is what has done the UPA government in. Question is this, you trump the UPA one figure of 8.4%. 1 minute. The fact remains that while you boosted economic growth in UPA 1, you triggered CPI inflation during UPA 1 to 6% from 3.9% in the NDA regime. During the UPA 2 regime, not only has the GDP gone down from the previous tenure, CPI inflation has gone up by 10.4%. So the UPA government is almost synonymous with inflation, and a large part of the growth that you proclaim has been totally dented due to inflation. You understand? You don't need to. This is basic economics. What are you talking about, Sanjay?
Can I tell you something?
This is basic.
Let me tell you.
This is basic.
Arnab,
don't deny.
You have just rationalized. 1 minute. What you have done, no, it is basic. What you have done is to rationalize what you very often in your program have trashed me for and my party and my government for, the need for subsidies. The reason why India has actually seen the prosperity in the rural sector is because subsidies, which are linked, by the way, indexed to inflation, has protected the real Aam Aadmi of India, has really protected the common man of India. And let me tell you, there are three income distinctions in India: the haves,
I know
the
subsidies,
have-nots, and the have-yachts.
I know
the
subsidies.
have-nots have been pushed to that. We
I
are
know
pushing the have-nots
I
to
know
the haves.
subsidies.
The BJP is a party for the have-yachts, for those who own Gulf
Subramanian Swamy respond.
And those who are really the super
Subramanian
rich.
Swamy can respond.
Middle class.
I can't respond because
Subramanian Swamy will respond now.
I can't respond.
Our policies of
Sanjay Jha, 1 minute.
How can I
Subramanian
respond when the man is non-stop talking?
We are the ones who have empowered the middle class of India.
Subramanian Swamy, please. Respond to all those points. It's Dr. Swamy's turn.
Okay, all right.
Well, first of all, you see, all the indexes which point to the health of an economy have been going from bad to worse. Take fiscal deficit. It's now running, if you really do the proper accounting, running at almost 6%. Mr. Chidambaram showed a lower figure because he understated the subsidies that were required in his budgeting, and then he also failed to mention that there was a non-performance of the government in terms of the investments. So many ministries returned the money. So finally they added the auction money of the 2G spectrum, which they have nothing to do with it. In fact, they were the ones who caused the spectrum scam, and it's the court which ordered the cancellation and led to the auction. And the amount that they realized in that period, they were included in the budget. So what is important is these indexes, they cannot answer. So they go around all this business of the economy being improving. What is improving, I want to know.